Here.
Chair Harrington.
Here. The first item on our agenda is oral communications to our clerk. Do we have anyone signed up?
We do. We have someone by the name of Raj Singh, and he's going to be speaking about COVID. Let me go ahead and unmute him.
Oh, yeah.
Raj, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, you are ready to go. You have 2 minutes for your testimony.
Great, thank you. Dear Commissioners, for the record, my name is Raj Singh. I'm representing Apano. On Wednesday, April 8th, 2020, Apano and the Street Trust hosted a 2-hour virtual focus group for Asian and Pacific Islander identifying community members who live, work, and play in Washington County, Oregon. We want to acknowledge that many folks could not participate because of the massive digital divide that is in our communities, which is further isolating families. The common feelings expressed by the majority of the participants based on the initial check-in included feelings of uncertainty, anxiousness, fear, disappointment, and disgust. Participants
Oops, we lost you. Yes, please.
Pause the time.
Sorry about that. Participants highlighted the importance of multilingual communications and social media for relaying information, and they called upon local governments to make communications translated, consistent, and easy to understand. Discrimination, hate, and bias incidents are also continuing to be experienced within our communities. Apano is anticipating and expecting the xenophobia, hate, and scapegoating to increase as the election cycle ramps up and as our economic conditions worsen. We call on our elected officials to thoroughly track these incidents early so we can extend trauma-informed care and culturally specific resources. Connected to this, API-owned small businesses have been facing low customer turnout and discrimination since the start of the pandemic. Keeping our small businesses resilient and debt-free during closures and throughout reopening should be a high priority. Participants acknowledged Washington County's inadequate public transit and expressed increasing captivity to single occupancy vehicles and an increased reliance on delivery services. This landscape prevents many transit-dependent community members, seniors, disabled folks, and youth from procuring essential goods. There was a lot of uncertainty expressed around being able to afford rent, especially when the rent and eviction moratoria are lifted. Thank you.
Thank you. And who do we have signed up next?
He was the only one signed up.
Oh, all right. Thank you very much for participating this evening. You're the first person to give us testimony through our use of Zoom, so thank you.
Catherine, I'd also like to thank Jiraj for providing us with that message from Apano. Thank you very much. It's an important message, and it's something that I know we all take very seriously, so thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions, Commissioners?
No, thank you.
All right. Next up on the agenda is the consent agenda. We're going to move one item off of the consent agenda under Health and Human Services. Item D, as in dog, will be moved to the action section of the agenda. So that leaves us with a consent agenda of 6 items, 3 items under Land Use and Transportation, 1 item under the Sheriff's Office, and 2 items under Support Services. What are the wishes of the Commission?
Move for approval of the consent agenda as modified. Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the modified consent agenda. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously, 5-0. Next up, presentations. I'd like to invite up Marnie Kyle, our Director of Health and Human Services. We've tried to make an effort to have informative COVID updates in each of our business meetings. In addition, for our audience sake, please know that at our work session, she also provides COVID updates for us, the members of the board. So we tend to ask most of our questions there, which has the advantage of informing her and informing us of different topics we'd like some information on. So welcome, Marnie.
Great, thank you, Chair Harrington and Board. Good evening. So I'm going to start, as usual, with our numbers. And as a reminder, these are cumulative numbers since February 28th. So the total number of positives in Washington County is now at 475. We have had 11 deaths and 109 hospitalizations. I just looked at some data on hospitalizations, and just over 45% of those hospitalized have already recovered. So that's some good news and some work to be done. We wish them all well, health, and a speedy recovery. So in Washington County, we have tested 7,720 people since this began. So I'm going to start my report with some good news. The latest Oregon Health Authority projections from the April 22nd report continues to demonstrate Oregonians are doing a great job of preventing the spread of COVID-19. We are saving lives. They estimate that there have been approximately 8,400 cases in Oregon, but more importantly, they estimate that over 70,000 cases have been prevented, and that includes over 1,500 prevented hospitalizations. As hard as it is, we need to stay strong a few more weeks to continue to prevent these cases and to continue to save lives. In a couple of minutes, I'll share a little bit more about how we're planning to reopen Oregon and Washington County. A couple of data updates. Just to let folks know, the Tri-County area and the state have a plan to release data by zip code and to release more data that demonstrates who's at risk and who's getting ill and what those risk factors are. So we also have a planned media event tomorrow, April 29th, to announce a disparity among the Latino population in positive cases. So those are some upcoming data events. Also just wanted to remind you and give you some information about how we continue to strengthen our work with and to support our communities of color. We're planning a meeting with the Coalition of Communities of Color and our community-based organizations tomorrow morning before a press release about the Latino disparity that we talked about. We're also planning a forum specifically with our Washington County community-based organizations that our Chair Harrington, is helping us to lead on May 7th to talk about opportunities for working with Washington County on COVID response, as well as an opportunity for us to hear from them what their needs are, what their concerns are, how things are going for their organizations. Okay, so let's talk about opening Oregon, the conversation everybody wants to have. Everybody's looking for that magic date, and unfortunately, I won't have that tonight. As a reminder, reopening is directed by our governor. She has presented a plan to reopen Oregon and is working closely with public health experts, other counties, our county and other counties, business representatives, faith leaders, and many, many more to ensure a safe, thoughtful, and effective approach that balances saving lives with reopening our economy. We here in Washington County, and I know our board as well because I've heard it from each and every one of you, we understand and we see the pain in our community. We see what you're facing. We see it sometimes from people that are ill or have ill family members. Sometimes it's fear. Sometimes it's the pain of job loss. And sometimes it's just loneliness and isolation. We want to open up as much as anyone, and we're working hard to plan and prepare for that. So let's talk a little bit about what's needed. First, we have some gates to get through. We need to see 2 weeks of declining cases, decreased hospitalizations, and lower levels of people in the ICU. The good news is that our data from the Tri-County area, as well as the Oregon epidemiological curve, is showing the trajectory in that right direction. The cases and the hospitalizations are going down. So there's 3 other criteria that we need to meet. We need to have increased testing availability, including antibody testing. An emphasis is on testing populations identified to be most at risk, healthcare providers, anyone working in congregate settings like assisted living centers, jails, adult foster care homes, and our communities of color. What that means is not only people with severe symptoms, but sometimes as tests become available, we'll be able to test folks that don't have symptoms when you have these risk factors that I just mentioned. People that are interested in testing still need to contact their healthcare provider and learn if there's testing available, where to go to get that testing and how to access that. The next thing is improved contact tracing, isolation, and quarantine. A national study estimated that Washington County needed approximately 180 staff to accomplish this. We currently have adequate staff to begin this effort, but we need to recruit, train, and outfit many more case and contact investigators. As we add the specific staff for COVID, we also need to release our staff back to their previous work, preventing and investigating other communicable diseases like tuberculosis. Those things are still occurring. We also have staff that have come from our mental health programs and across the county that eventually need to go back to their day job. But for now, we do have staff to begin this function. So I wanted to provide some reassurance that we're not starting from zero. We can begin the function of contact tracing, isolation, and quarantine. We've done it, we know how to do it, and we're ready and prepared to do it again. The other thing is adequate health system capacity, including adequate PPE, personal protective equipment. And based on the data that I looked at today, we do have adequate healthcare capacity as well as PPE. So that's some more good news for us as we work towards reopening Washington County. So as these criteria are met, we'll begin opening in what's been described as 3 phases that will happen over time. Phase 1, I'm describing as very close to our current situation. We'll have some loosening of the restrictions that allow smaller gatherings, 10 or fewer people, but we're still going to be asked to maintain physical distancing and to wear face covering. And our most vulnerable populations are older adults and people with coexisting medical conditions will need to continue to stay at home to protect themselves. In phase 2, if we enter phase 1 and we have continued decline of numbers and hospitalizations, we'll move towards phase 2. In phase 2, it's further lifting of these restrictions. However, those with the highest risk should continue to protect themselves by staying at home. Again, we'll have slightly larger ability to have larger crowds and gatherings, educational opportunities. They'll begin to look at things like, can we open restaurants? Can we open bars? What does that look like? What needs to be in place? So those plans are all being discussed and prepared right now. And then phase 3, and this is the phase that I'm calling the new normal. We don't know exactly what it will look like. It will likely continue to require us to think about physical distancing, new ways of doing business, continued use of face coverings when we're in public. It could mean even larger crowds, but I don't think there's any light switch that's going to turn on that's going to allow us to have really large events like concerts and sporting events. We'll still be cautious and slow. And at any point in these phases, if we begin to see the data going in the wrong direction, so in other words, people becoming sick again, we will have to look at, do we need to go backwards a little bit? So I'll end again. Well, just to say Washington County, both as an employer and our EOC, are starting to draft our plans so that we can reopen, and we're prepared to do that. So we'll be providing the board and our public a lot more information in the near future about that. And then just to end, to emphasize again, we're getting close. Hang in there with us and continue to stay home and save lives. get out and enjoy the sunshine, but do it while you're maintaining physical distance from people that are outside of your household. And just hang in there tough with us. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Treese, do you have any questions?
No, I just want to thank Marnie for her continued work in this area and all of your staff. You've done a great job. I really appreciate the updates, and my best to everyone in Health and Human Services.
Thanks.
Commissioners?
No, it's my third briefing today, so I think that you covered it well.
Thank you.
Mike?
Yes, fine. Thank you for reminding me. If I could have just a written summary of phase 1, 2, and 3.
Sure.
I'd appreciate that, yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. I take that with me as my crib notes.
Certainly. Okay.
I would like to thank you and the team, everyone in the EOC, for all of your continued work, all of your cheerleading, but keeping us informed as well. Not only the members of the board, but all kinds of different groups that we're meeting with to ensure information's getting out there.
Thank you.
Keep going.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that's it for presentations this evening. Next, we move on to public hearings, and we have one from our Land Use and Transportation Department to consider the annexation of 2 parcels and a right-of-way totaling approximately 1 acre to the Tualatin Hills Park and Recreation District. And I neglected to bring my packet up. Is this the first public hearing on this subject?
No, it's just,
Madam Chair, this is actually a continuation. You opened this hearing on April 7th, and we continued it to tonight. And I think we have Brian Robb joining
As for a
us
staff
online.
report?
Yeah.
Great.
Staff report, thank you.
Get the packet back up here on my left.
Ready to go?
Yes.
Thank you, Brian. You're ready.
Sure. Good evening, Chair Harrington and Commissioners. I'm Brian Robb, Associate Planner with Community Planning. The annexation before you today, case file number 19-005, is a request by H&H Northwest Development to annex 2 parcels and right-of-way totaling approximately 1 acre into the Tualatin Hills Park and Recreation District. The properties are located near 18215 Northwest Union Road and are further identified in the map and legal description that's included in as Exhibit C in the agenda packet. On April 7th, the board opened the public hearing to consider this request and continued the public hearing to today, April 28th. Based on the facts and findings in the April 13th staff report, staff recommends the board approve a resolution and order approving the annexation with the approval becoming effective May 20th, 2020. If there's any public testimony provided today other than by the applicant, there's a brief statement that I'll need to read into the record. With that, I'll conclude my staff report and can answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions of staff at this time? Commissioner Treese? No? Okay. Do we have anyone signed up for the public hearing? I will open it, but I wanted to check first.
We do not have anyone signed up.
Okay. Well, nonetheless, we're going to reopen the public hearing, and don't have anyone signed up. We don't have anyone here in the room with us, so we're going to close the public hearing.
Okay. Madam Chair, having concluded the public hearing, I move that we adopt a resolution order approving the annexation with approval become effective May 20th, 2020, and authorizing the chair to sign the resolution and order for Service District Annexation 19-005.
second?
Second?
Or second?
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
That's a vote, yes.
That was for the yes, right, Commissioner Treese? Yep, okay. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. Next, we have 2 items on our action agenda. The first one for Health and Human Services to authorize the waiver of non-emergency and wheelchair car service licensing fees for fiscal year 2020 through 2021. Do we have a staff report on this?
Marty's coming in.
Yep.
Good evening, Chair Harrington and Board. I wasn't planning a staff report that's anything different than what was in your packet, sorry, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yep, so this is a recommendation from our staff to waive the licensing fees for the non-emergency and wheelchair transportation agencies for this next fiscal year. We will be foregoing $36,500.
Correct, and it's non-emergency ambulances, wheelchair supports, and our emergency ambulances.
Madam Chair, I have no questions, but I'd move for the requested action.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Treese, great. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. The second item on our agenda was previously item D on the consent agenda, and this is to award a contract for in-home personal care services. We took this off of the agenda so that Commissioner Treese could recuse herself from this vote. So,
I'd like to request for that, please. I'd like to recuse myself. Thank you.
So this will award the contracts to Adams and Gray Home Care, DBA Marquis at Home, Caring for Portland, Compass Enterprises, Inc., DBA Home Instead Senior Care, Atlanta's Caregiving, and Home Instead, Inc. through June 30th, 2025. What are the wishes of the commission?
Move for approval, Madam Chair, of the item.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously 4-0 with one recusal. Next on our agenda is our second oral communication period for this evening. This is an opportunity for folks to testify before us, 5 minutes maximum per individual. Do we have anyone signed up this evening?
We did, although the person is not in attendance.
Okay, well, seeing none, we'll skip oral communications and move on to board announcements. Per usual, the board announcement includes announcements for our upcoming meetings. We have the pair of commission meetings next Tuesday, May 5th, with a work session at 8:30 in the morning and a board meeting at 10 o'clock. The following week, May 12th, we have an extended work session at 8:30 a.m., and that will be the first day we start our various budget committee meetings as well. And then the following Tuesday, May 19th, we have the pair of commission meetings, 8:30 a.m. in the morning and 10 a.m. All of these meetings will once again be hosted on Zoom. Are there any other board announcements? No? Seeing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Move for adjournment.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously, 5-0. We are hereby adjourned. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.